Chapter 1. Whispers in the Dark. The town of Eldermere was the kind of place where secrets could hardly breathe. Narrow streets twisted like the veins of an old oak, and every house stood with its windows watching, listening. By day, Eldermere was a sleepy, slow-moving village, but by night, it was something else entirely. A place where shadows whispered and forbidden dreams stirred. Tonight, the sky was a deep, endless black, pierced only by a full, mournful moon. A hush had fallen over the streets, broken only by the soft scuff of hurried footsteps against cracked pavement. Amelia's heart pounded as she slipped between two crumbling brick walls, her breath forming pale ghosts in the cold night air. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from anticipation. We shouldn't be doing this. She couldn't help herself. Her leather jacket clung to her, the wind snatching at her hair. She clutched the small silver locket around her neck, a habit she had whenever she felt a surge of emotion she couldn't name. Amelia. A low voice floated from the darkness. She turned sharply, her pulse racing. From the shadows emerged a figure, tall, lean, wrapped in a long black coat. Liam. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the world fell away. It had been days, endless, aching days, since she'd last seen him. Every second apart had been torture. "You came," she whispered, stepping into his arms like a sleepwalker drawn to a dream. "I'd burn the whole town down if it meant getting to you," Liam murmured into her hair, his voice rough with longing. He smelled like rain and leather, a scent that had become intoxicatingly familiar. His arms wrapped around her, strong and desperate, like he was afraid she might disappear. Amelia melted against him, her body fitting into his as if they were made to be one. "I missed you," she breathed. He kissed her forehead tenderly, then tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his gaze. His eyes were dark, stormy, filled with emotions he couldn't put into words. Without another word, he lowered his mouth to hers. The kiss was deep, hungry. It tasted of loneliness, of stolen time, of everything they weren't allowed to have, but couldn't resist. Amelia's fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer. She could feel his heart beating wildly against her chest, matching her own frantic rhythm. Every touch, every kiss, was a rebellion against the expectations of the town, against the secrets that loomed over them like a storm cloud. "Come with me," Liam whispered against her lips. "I've found somewhere we can be alone." Amelia hesitated only a second before nodding. Anywhere, as long as it was with him. He led her through the overgrown garden behind the old church, where the wild roses had long since claimed the crumbling stones. The air smelled of earth and forgotten prayers. In the center of the ruins, under the ghostly silver light of the moon, Liam stopped. Here, hidden by the night, they could pretend the world didn't exist. He pulled her into his arms again, and their lips found each other once more. His hands roamed her back, memorizing every curve, every tremble. Amelia clung to him, her senses overwhelmed, her body burning with the need to be closer, closer still. "I can't stay away from you," Liam confessed between kisses, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't want to hide anymore." Neither did she, but reality was closing in. Amelia could feel it, like the distant rumble of thunder before a storm. In the heat of their embrace, neither of them noticed the faint crunch of boots on gravel. Neither of them saw the flicker of a flashlight beam slicing through the night. A harsh voice shattered their moment like glass. Amelia gasped, pulling back from Liam just as bright lights exploded around them. She blinked, disoriented, and saw the glint of badges, the cold gleam of drawn weapons. Two officers, their faces stern and unmoving, stood before them. Liam instinctively stepped in front of her, shielding her with his body. "What's going on?" Amelia stammered, her voice shaking. "You're both under suspicion," one of the officers barked. "Hands where we can see them. Now." "Suspicion? For what?" Her mind reeled, struggling to make sense of it. Liam's jaw clenched. Slowly, he raised his hands. Amelia followed, her heart hammering in her chest. She glanced at Liam, panic rising. There was something in his eyes, a flicker of something dark. Something he hadn't told her. As the officers closed in, Amelia realized with chilling certainty that this night was only the beginning. Their love had just become a crime, and the secrets Liam carried might be far more dangerous than she ever imagined. Chapter 2. Secrets Behind His Eyes. The inside of the police car smelled like cold vinyl and stale coffee. Amelia sat rigidly in the back seat, hands trembling in her lap, her heart thundering so loudly she was sure the officers could hear it. Liam sat beside her, his wrists cuffed, his jaw set in a hard line. He hadn't said a word since they were forced into the car. He stared out the window, his eyes distant. Amelia leaned toward him, her voice barely a whisper. "Liam, what's going on? Why are they doing this?" He turned to her, his expression softening for a split second. "I'll explain everything," he promised. "Just trust me, Amelia. Please trust." She wanted to, more than anything, but fear gnawed at the edges of her heart. The police station was a squat, gray building that looked even more unfriendly under the harsh glow of the floodlights. They were hustled inside, separated. Amelia's hands shook as she sat alone in a sterile interrogation room, the metal table cold against her palms. She tried to steady her breathing, tried to hold on to the memory of Liam's touch, his kiss, his whispered promises. Tried not to think about the fear in his eyes. The door creaked open, and a heavy-set officer entered, tossing a folder onto the table. He didn't sit. He loomed over her instead, arms crossed. "Amelia Dawson," he said, reading her name off a file. 25, no prior arrests, upstanding citizen. "So, tell me." He leaned closer. "How long have you been involved with Liam Hart?" She swallowed hard. We're seeing each other, that's all." The officer gave a humorless laugh. "You picked an interesting man to fall for." "What do you mean?" Amelia whispered. The officer slapped a photograph onto the table. It showed Liam, but not the Liam she knew. In the picture, he was standing near a black SUV, talking to a man in a dark hoodie. His face looked harder, colder. Amelia stared, her stomach twisting. "That man with him," the officer said, tapping the photo, "disappeared 2 weeks ago. And Liam Hart was the last person seen with him." "No," Amelia shook her head. "Liam would never." The officer cut her off. "There's more. Stolen goods, missing persons. We've been watching him for months." Amelia clutched the edge of the table, fighting the wave of nausea threatening to overtake her. Had Liam been lying to her all along? No. She couldn't believe it. Not after everything they had shared. Not after the way he held her like she was the only real thing in his world. The door opened again, and another officer called the heavy-set man out. Amelia was left alone, her mind a whirlwind of fear, doubt, and a desperate, aching love. Minutes? Or hours? She couldn't tell, passed before the door opened again. This time it was Liam. No handcuffs, no guards. His clothes were rumpled, his hair disheveled. But his eyes, those stormy, beautiful eyes, were locked on her. filled with a raw desperation that shattered her. "Amelia," he said roughly, "we don't have much time." He crossed the room in 2 strides, grabbed her hands, and pulled her to her feet. "They're trying to frame me," he said in a low, urgent voice. "But I swear to you, I didn't do any of the things they're accusing me of." Tears blurred her vision. "But the photo, it's not what it looks like. Please, you have to believe me." Before she could answer, the alarms started blaring. Somewhere down the hall, people were shouting. Liam squeezed her hands. "Now, we have to run." "But how?" she gasped. He gave her a tight, reckless smile, the one she had fallen in love with. "I have a friend. He's causing a distraction. Follow me. Trust me." Without waiting for her to decide, Liam yanked open the door and pulled her into the chaos. Officers ran past them, chasing after a figure in a black hoodie sprinting down the opposite hall. Heart hammering in her chest, Amelia clutched Liam's hand and ran, her mind screaming with fear and her heart roaring with love. They burst out a side door into the freezing night air. A black motorcycle was waiting, the engine purring like a beast in the shadows. Liam swung onto it effortlessly and held out his hand to her. "Come with me," he said, his voice fierce and tender. "I won't let them take you away from me." Amelia didn't hesitate. She climbed on behind him, wrapping her arms tightly around his waist. She could feel his heart pounding under her palms. As the motorcycle roared into the night, Amelia pressed her cheek against Liam's back and closed her eyes. No matter what lay ahead, the danger, the secrets, the unknown, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would rather be running into darkness with Liam than living safely without him. And deep down, she knew. Their story was only just beginning. Chapter 3, Shelter of Secrets. The night swallowed them whole. Wind howled past Amelia's ears, whipping her hair around her face as the motorcycle sped down winding back roads, far from the small, suffocating streets of Eldermere. She clung to Liam, feeling the solid strength of his body under her hands, the tense urgency in the way he leaned into the turns. Every bump in the road, every sharp breath he took, tied her closer to him. Heart, body, soul. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Liam slowed and turned down a narrow dirt path hidden between towering pines. Ahead, a small, rundown cabin came into view, half swallowed by the forest. He killed the engine, and the sudden silence was deafening. Only the soft rustle of leaves and the faint hoot of an owl filled the air. "This way," Liam said, voice rough. He kept her hand tightly in his as he led her toward the cabin. Inside, the air was cold and musty, but safe. Amelia looked around. A worn couch, a cracked stone fireplace, a small kitchen tucked away in the corner. Dust floated in the moonlight, spilling through the windows. Liam locked the door behind them, pulling the heavy curtains shut. For a moment, they simply stood there, breathing hard, staring at each other across the dimly lit room. Amelia's chest heaved with emotion, fear, relief, longing, all tangled together. She took a tentative step toward him. "Liam," she whispered, "what is happening?" He ran a hand through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. "I never wanted to drag you into this," he said hoarsely. "I thought I could keep you safe if I stayed away, but I couldn't." "Tell me the truth," she said, voice trembling. "Please, I deserve that much." He stopped pacing, his shoulders sagging under invisible weight. "I used to work for someone dangerous," Liam said. His voice was low, laced with regret. "I thought I could walk away, start over. Then I met you, and for the first time I had something Someone worth fighting for. Amelia's throat tightened. I didn't hurt anyone, Liam continued. But they're framing me, making it look like I'm involved in things I walked away from years ago. And now they're trying to use you to get to me. Amelia's heart twisted. She crossed the room in 2 strides and threw her arms around him. Liam froze for a heartbeat, then wrapped her up in his arms so tightly it almost hurt. His face buried in her hair, and she felt him tremble. I'm so sorry, he whispered brokenly. You deserve so much better. I don't want better, Amelia said fiercely. She pulled back just enough to look into his eyes. I want you. The dam inside Liam broke. His hands framed her face, and he kissed her, not with the urgent hunger of before, but with a desperate, aching tenderness that stole the breath from her lungs. Their bodies pressed together, heat sparking between them despite the cold room. His hand roamed her back, memorizing every curve, every shiver. Amelia moaned softly against his mouth, tangling her fingers in his hair, pulling him closer. Every kiss deepened, every touch grew more frantic, until it was like they were drowning in each other, clinging to the only thing that felt real. He lifted her effortlessly, carrying her to the worn couch, laying her down with a reverence that made her heart ache. Liam, she whispered, tracing the line of his jaw, feeling the roughness of his stubble against her fingertips. He covered her hand with his own, pressing it to his heart. This, he said, voice shaking. This is what's real. You and me, nothing else matters. For a long, endless moment, they simply held each other, breathing together, hearts beating in sync. The outside world, with all its threats and dangers, faded away. There was only the warmth of his body, the softness of his breath against her skin, the silent promises woven into every kiss, every caress. I love you, Liam whispered against her temple, so softly it was almost a prayer. Tears sprang to Amelia's eyes. She cupped his face, forcing him to meet her gaze. I love you too, she said fiercely. We'll get through this, together. He kissed her again, deeper, longer, pouring every ounce of his fear, his hope, his love into her. When they finally pulled away, Liam rested his forehead against hers. We have to be careful, he said. They won't stop until they find us. But I swear, I'll keep you safe, no matter what it costs me. Amelia tightened her arms around him. Whatever we face, she whispered, I'm not going anywhere. Outside, the wind howled through the trees like a warning. Inside, 2 broken souls found shelter in each other's arms, vowing silently to fight for the fragile, beautiful love growing between them, no matter the storm raging beyond their walls. Chapter 4. Shadows at Dawn. Amelia woke with a start. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The dusty smell of the old cabin, the rough fabric of the couch beneath her, Liam's strong arms wrapped around her protectively. Then, it all came rushing back. The police, the chase, the confessions whispered in the dark. She turned slightly, careful not to wake him. His face was peaceful in sleep, but there was still a tension in his jaw, a slight frown between his brows. Even in dreams, he couldn't escape the danger hunting them. Amelia reached up and brushed a lock of hair from his forehead, her heart swelling with fierce, aching love. She wanted to stay like this, forever. But fate had other plans. A faint noise outside, a soft crunch of footsteps on gravel, snapped her fully awake. Her breath caught in her throat. Someone was out there. Gently she shook Liam's shoulder. He woke instantly, his eyes sharp and alert. His hand immediately went to the small knife tucked into his boot, a habit he'd explained with a rueful grin the night before. "Someone's outside," she whispered. He nodded once. All business now. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. Quick, urgent. Before rising silently to his feet, Amelia crouched low behind the couch as Liam moved to the window, peeling back the curtain just enough to peer out. Seconds stretched into an eternity. Finally, he turned back to her, his face grim. "It's not the police," he said quietly. "It's worse." A chill ran down her spine. Before she could ask what he meant, the front door rattled violently. "Liam Hart!" a rough voice barked. "You're coming with us. And if you make this hard, the girl gets hurt first." Amelia's blood turned to ice. Liam's eyes darkened with fury. He moved quickly, pulling her up and guiding her toward the back door. "We have to go," he whispered fiercely. "No." They slipped into the trees just as the front door crashed inward. Gunshots split the morning air, echoing through the forest. Amelia stumbled over roots and stones, but Liam kept her steady, his grip never faltering. He led her deeper into the woods, their breath steaming in the cold dawn light. When they finally stopped, hidden behind a fallen tree, Amelia collapsed to her knees, gasping for air. "Who were they?" she managed to choke out. Liam crouched beside her, his expression grim. "People from my past," he said. "The ones I ran from. They found me. And now, they want to use you to control me." Tears stung Amelia's eyes. She hated being a weakness they could use against him. "I'm not afraid," she said fiercely, grabbing his hand. "We'll fight them, together." Liam gave her a half smile, pained but full of love. "You're braver than anyone I've ever known," he whispered. He pulled her into a crushing hug, burying his face in her neck. For a few precious moments, they held on to each other, drawing strength from the bond that had formed so quickly, so powerfully between them. But time wasn't on their side. They had to keep moving. After hours of trudging through the woods, they finally emerged onto an abandoned highway. In the distance, Amelia spotted a rusty gas station clinging to life at the edge of the road. "We can get supplies there," Liam said. As they approached, Liam kept Amelia close, his hand brushing against the small of her back. A silent reassurance that he was there, that he would protect her. Inside the station, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. An old man behind the counter barely looked up from his newspaper. Amelia grabbed bottled water and a few energy bars while Liam checked their surroundings. At the register, she handed over a crumpled $20 bill Liam had given her. The old man's eyes flicked to her, sharp and calculating now. "You're Amelia Dawson, aren't you?" he asked, his voice low. Her blood ran cold. Before she could respond, the man leaned closer. "You're in danger," he whispered. "They're offering a reward for information about you and your boyfriend. Big money." Amelia's heart hammered in her chest. "Don't worry," the man added, with a small, grim smile. "I'm not going to turn you in. But you need to get out of here, fast. They're closing in." She grabbed the bag and fled back to Liam. His face darkened as she relayed what the man had said. "We have to leave," he muttered. "We're running out of places to hide." They mounted a battered pickup truck Liam had managed to hotwire behind the station. As they roared down the cracked highway, Amelia stared out the window, her heart heavy. Their love was real, fierce, wild, undeniable. But the world around them was closing in. And somewhere deep in her gut, she knew. Someone close to her had betrayed them. Someone she had trusted. But who? She turned to Liam, her heart aching. "Whatever happens," she said softly, "I'm not letting go." Liam reached over and took her hand, squeezing it tightly. "Neither am I," he promised. And as the sun rose over the endless stretch of road ahead, they sped into an uncertain future, together, against the world. Chapter 5. The Betrayal We Never Saw Coming. The truck rumbled down the deserted highway, every mile putting more distance between them and danger. But Amelia knew, in her heart, that distance alone wouldn't save them. Their enemies were ruthless. They would hunt Liam, and now her, to the ends of the earth. Liam kept one hand on the steering wheel and the other tightly wrapped around hers, as if he was afraid she'd slip away if he let go. They barely spoke. Words felt too small for the storm brewing inside both of them. Finally, after hours of driving through endless forests and abandoned towns, Liam turned onto a gravel path hidden by thick trees. Ahead stood an old farmhouse, battered by time but standing strong against the elements. Ivy crept up the cracked stone walls, and the windows glinted dully in the afternoon light. "This was my mom's place," Liam said quietly. "No one else knows about it. We should be safe here. For a little while." Amelia squeezed his hand. The gratitude in her heart was overwhelming. Inside, the house smelled of dust and old wood. The furniture was covered in white sheets, and the air was thick with memories. As soon as they stepped inside, Liam pulled her into his arms. "I'm sorry," he whispered against her hair, "for dragging you into this life. You deserve better." Amelia pressed her hands against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her palms. "I chose this," she said fiercely. "I chose you." His lips crashed into hers, desperate and hungry. They clung to each other, lost in the need to feel something pure amid all the fear and chaos. That night, they curled up together on a mattress they dragged near the fireplace, wrapped in blankets and each other. For the first time in days, Amelia allowed herself to believe they might make it, until a knock shattered the peace. Liam jerked awake instantly, his body tense. Another knock. Softer this time. Amelia's heart froze when she heard a familiar voice through the door. "Amelia? It's me. It's Claire." "Open up." Claire. Her best friend since childhood. Her sister in everything but blood. Amelia scrambled to the door, fumbling with the lock. "Wait," Liam warned, grabbing her wrist. His eyes were dark, wary. "We don't know if it's safe." But Amelia's heart overruled her fear. Claire would never hurt her. Never. She yanked open the door. Claire stood there, wrapped in a thick coat, her eyes wide and frantic. "Thank God," she gasped, pulling Amelia into a fierce hug. "I've been looking everywhere for you." Tears welled in Amelia's eyes as she hugged her back. "What are you doing here?" Amelia asked, pulling away. Claire hesitated just for a second. A flash of something crossed her face. Regret? Guilt? "I heard you were in trouble," Claire said, voice trembling. "I couldn't just sit back and do nothing." Liam stepped forward, his posture guarded. "How did you find us?" he asked coolly. Claire flinched. I know this place. You told me about it once, Amelia, years ago. I guessed you'd come here." Amelia wanted to believe her. God, she needed to believe her. They ushered Claire inside and locked the door behind them. For a while, it almost felt normal. Sitting by the fire, sipping coffee, telling whispered stories about their lives since they'd last seen each other. But the unease grew in Liam's eyes. And deep down, Amelia felt it too, a tension coiling tighter and tighter. Finally, when Claire went to the bathroom, Liam turned to Amelia. "We can't trust her," he said lowly. "Is my best friend," Amelia whispered back, heartbreaking. "She would never." The sharp crack of a gun cocking cut her off. Claire stood in the doorway, a small pistol in her hand, her face twisted with sorrow. "I'm sorry," Claire choked out, tears running down her cheeks. "They have my brother, Amelia. They said if I didn't bring you in, they'd kill him." Amelia staggered back, the betrayal slicing deeper than any blade. "Claire," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't want to," Claire sobbed, "but I had no choice." Liam moved slowly, positioning himself between Amelia and the gun. "You always have a choice," he said coldly. Claire's hand trembled. Her aim wavered. "Please," she begged, "just come with me. Let them take you. It'll end all of this." Amelia stared at the girl who had once been her sister, her partner in every childhood secret, every teenage heartbreak. And she made her choice. "No," Amelia said firmly, stepping beside Liam. "I'm not leaving him. Not for anything." Claire sobbed harder, but she didn't lower the gun. Liam's voice was steel. "You need to walk away, Claire, right now, before you do something you can't take back." For a long, agonizing moment, Claire stood frozen. Then, with a broken sob, she dropped the gun. It clattered to the floor between them. "I'm sorry," she wept. "I'm so sorry." Liam grabbed the gun and tucked it into his waistband. Without a word, Claire turned and fled into the night. Amelia collapsed into Liam's arms, shaking with shock and heartbreak. He held her tightly, whispering soothing words against her hair. "I've got you," he murmured over and over. "I'm not letting anyone take you away." Outside, the night was silent again. But inside, Amelia's heart was shattered. She had lost a friend, but she had chosen her love. And she knew, without a doubt, there was no going back now. Only forward. Together. Chapter 6. Secrets Beneath the Skin. The farmhouse felt hollow after Claire's betrayal. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind against the windows, made Amelia flinch. She sat on the floor beside the cold fireplace, wrapped in one of Liam's jackets, staring at the front door as if Claire might burst through it again. But this time, not alone. Liam knelt in front of her, his hands warm on her shaking shoulders. "We can't stay," he said softly. Amelia nodded numbly. She had known it the moment Claire had fled into the woods, her betrayal echoing louder than gunfire. Their enemies knew where they were now. It was only a matter of time. Liam pulled her into a fierce hug, his hands cradling the back of her head. "I'll keep you safe," he whispered fiercely, "even if it kills me." Amelia clutched him tighter, desperate to hold on to this fierce love they had found, the only thing that felt real in a world spinning out of control. They packed quickly. There wasn't much. Just a few supplies, the stolen truck keys, and a gun they hoped they wouldn't have to use. As they drove back onto the highway, the sun dipped low, staining the sky blood red. Hours passed in tense silence. Amelia stared at Liam's profile, the hard line of his jaw, the muscle ticking in his cheek, and felt a surge of love so powerful it hurt. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. "Tell me everything," she said quietly. "No more secrets, please." Liam's hands tightened on the wheel. For a long moment she thought he wouldn't answer. But then he sighed, a low, broken sound, and began. "I wasn't just some drifter before I met you," he said, voice rough. I used to work for them, the people chasing us now. Amelia's stomach twisted. It was invaluable. I didn't know what they really were at first, he continued. They pretended to be just a private security firm, but they were dirty. Blackmail, extortion, even killings disguised as accidents. He glanced at her, pain shining in his eyes. I wanted out. But no one leaves them, no one. Amelia reached across the truck and gripped his hand tightly. You're not that man anymore, she said fiercely. You're this man, the one who risked everything for freedom. For me. Liam swallowed hard, blinking back emotion. I thought if I ran far enough, hid deep enough, they'd forget about me, he said. But I made mistakes, left breadcrumbs. And now, you're paying for it too. Amelia shook her head. I'd follow you anywhere, she whispered. I'd risk anything for you. The truck's headlights swept over a sign. Welcome to Haven Creek. A small town nestled between mountains and forests, isolated and easy to disappear into. For a little while at least. They pulled into a run-down motel on the outskirts of town. Inside their room, Amelia collapsed onto the sagging bed, while Liam secured the doors and checked the windows. Only when he was sure they were safe, for now, did he join her, gathering her into his arms. In the dim light, his face was a portrait of pain and devotion. I'm not good for you, he murmured against her temple. You're everything I need, she replied without hesitation. Their lips met, slow and aching. Every touch, every kiss, was desperate. A plea for more time, more life, more us. Clothes were shed in a trail across the room, barriers falling with each whispered vow, each tender caress. They made love as if it were their last night on earth. Slow, intense, a blending of souls as much as bodies. Later, tangled together beneath thin motel sheets, Amelia traced lazy circles over Liam's bare chest. I don't care about your past, she said softly. I care about the man you are when you look at me like that. Liam's arms tightened around her. I'd burn the world to keep you safe, he whispered. Amelia smiled against his skin. We'll burn it together if we have to. For the first time, in what felt like forever, Amelia drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep in Liam's arms. But peace was a fragile thing, and outside their thin motel walls, danger was closing in. In the darkness, a black SUV pulled into the motel parking lot, headlights off. Inside, a man in a sharp black suit pulled out a photograph, a photo of Liam and Amelia, laughing together, oblivious. He smiled coldly. Found you, he murmured. Tomorrow would bring blood and choices. Tomorrow would test their love like never before. But tonight, just tonight, they had each other. And that was enough. Chapter 7. The Final Stand. Amelia woke to the sound of tires crunching gravel. It was still dark outside, the thin gray light of dawn just beginning to creep across the motel room. Beside her, Liam was already awake, tense and silent, pulling on his jeans and strapping the gun to his waistband. There, here, he said grimly. Amelia's heart thudded painfully in her chest. There was no time for fear now. Only action. They moved quickly, grabbing what little they had, silently agreeing there was no point in running any more. They would face whatever came, together. The knock at the door was sharp and commanding. Woken up, Liam Hart. We know you're in there, and we know you have the girl. Amelia tightened her grip on Liam's hand. He squeezed back, steady and sure. I'll buy you time to get out the back, he whispered. No, she said fiercely. We end this together." A small, sad smile touched his lips. A smile full of love, full of pride. They didn't have long. The front door splintered inward. Men in black rushed in, weapons drawn. Liam fired first, a warning shot that sent them ducking for cover. He pulled Amelia behind a dresser, shielding her with his body. "Listen to me," he said urgently. "If we get separated, you keep running. You find the cabin we talked about, up by Red Pine Creek. I'll meet you there." "I'm not leaving without you," Amelia choked out, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You won't have to," he promised fiercely. But life, as they had learned, rarely listened to promises. A bullet shattered the window behind them. Liam shoved her toward the back door. "Go!" he roared. She stumbled into the alley behind the motel, heart pounding so loudly she barely heard the gunfire inside. Footsteps thundered behind her. She ran, gasping for air, her bare feet scraping against the cold asphalt. Suddenly, strong arms grabbed her from behind. She screamed, fighting wildly. "Amelia!" a voice barked. "Stop! It's me!" She turned to see Claire, pale, shaking, bleeding from a cut on her forehead. Claire's eyes were wild, desperate. "I came back to help you," she gasped. "I couldn't let them hurt you. They lied to me, Amelia. They never planned to let my brother go." Amelia hesitated, every instinct screaming at her not to trust again. But there was no time to think. The black SUV screeched into the alley, cutting off her escape. Claire grabbed her hand. "Come on." Together, they fled through the maze of back streets. Behind them, shots rang out, Liam's voice shouting her name. They burst into a narrow service corridor behind a diner, ducking out of sight. Amelia's chest heaved with sobs. "I have to go back," she cried. "Liam's still fighting." Claire's face twisted with pain. "You'll both die if you go back now," she said. "There's another way." Claire fumbled in her jacket and pulled out a phone. "Stole this from one of them," she said. "It has all the blackmail files, everything they're using to control people. We can trade it for your lives." I stared at her. Hope flickered. It's dangerous, reckless, but it might work. She grabbed the phone and took off running. By the time she reached the motel again, it was chaos. Sirens howled in the distance. Liam was on his knees, bloody but defiant, a gun trained on him. The man in the suit, the one from the SUV, stood over him, smiling coldly. "You're finished, Hart," he sneered. "Not yet," Amelia said, stepping into the clearing, her voice ringing like a gunshot. The man's head snapped up. Amelia held up the stolen phone. "I know what you did," she said loudly. "All of it. And if you don't let us go, the whole world will know too." The man's smile faltered. "You wouldn't," he growled. "I would," she said, with steel in her voice. The standoff stretched for an agonizing moment. Then, slowly, the man lowered his gun. "Fine," he hissed. "Take your little romance, but know this. You'll never truly be free." He turned and disappeared into the darkness, his men following. As the sirens grew closer, Liam staggered to his feet. Kay ran to him, throwing her arms around him. He caught her, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "You saved me," he whispered into her hair. "You saved me first," she whispered back. Police cars screeched into the lot. Officers poured out, guns drawn. But when they saw the chaos, the abandoned black SUVs, and heard Amelia's frantic explanation, they quickly realized who the real criminals were. Hours later, wrapped in Liam's arms in the back of an ambulance, Amelia closed her eyes. They were safe. really truly safe. For the first time in what felt like forever, the future stretched before them, uncertain but bright. "Where do we go now?" she whispered. Liam smiled, brushing a lock of hair from her face. "Anywhere you want," he said, "as long as I'm with you." Amelia smiled through her tears. "Then let's just live," she said. And under the first golden rays of dawn they kissed. A kiss full of everything they had fought for, everything they had lost, and everything they had won. A kiss that promised a lifetime of love, no matter what shadows tried to creep in. Because together they were unstoppable. Together they were free. And together they were home. The end.